Now, this story, which is very disturbing, men who brag on social media about hurting women could be criminally charged. In a recent Twitter thread, many men confessed to mistreating women and appeared to boast about it. Some even made threats. And in KwaZulu-Natal, an intern at a provincial hospital has been suspended for a social media post. In it, he threatened to rape his neighbour's young children, and he claimed he was only joking. Well, Bronwyn Pithi from the Women's Legal Centre joins us now from our Cape Town studio. Bronwyn, a very good morning to you. And I say this is so disturbing because you would, I mean, where are we in humanity? Where are we in our society, in our culture, that men feel it's okay to do this? One, to physically do it, and then to also put it out there.
No, I mean, obviously it's very concerning, but perhaps not that, not really that misunderstanding in the sense that, you know, social media is something that is now available to most people. So it's yet another platform, unfortunately, where men may be able to express those forms of violence. So I guess the issue is that as we move through humanity, as you say, there are various ways in which those threats and that violence is going to be expressed.
So let's talk about the possibility of legal action then, Bronwyn. I mean, how do you go about laying a charge, taking somebody to court for what he's boasting about having done to a woman or what he's threatening to do in the case of this intern and his neighbour's children?
Well, there are a number of possibilities in terms of the options that are available in terms of the criminal law. There could be an assault that could be lodged with the police. An assault includes threats. So if there is a threat of some kind of violence that can be perpetrated, that is certainly a criminal action that could be pursued. There are a number of other options, though. In terms of the sexual offences legislation of 2007, there is a provision that makes it an offence to inspire the belief in somebody else that there may be a sexual assault. So in the case of the Durban or the KZN situation, where someone threatens to rape the children of a neighbour, that could certainly be seen as inspiring the belief in those parents or even those children that there will be a sexual assault that could occur. And that is definitely a criminal offence that could be pursued. What's important to note as well is that there is draft legislation that is before Parliament around cybercrimes, and that will address these incidents very specifically, where if somebody posts anything or if there's any electronic communication online, so a Facebook post, a Twitter post, that threatens someone of any form of violence, that is an offence. So the legislation, government has recognised both here and internationally that these are very real offences and these are very real threats that make people feel very scared, obviously, and could be put into operation by the people who are threatening them.
So how do you go about actually getting to them? I mean, would you necessarily need the victim or the survivor of that, or the person who was being threatened? Say, for example, those kids' parents, would they need to be part of that process?
Well, not necessarily, because, I mean, in practically, it obviously would be very useful to have someone to lay a charge who is the direct victim of such a threat. But because it's a public forum, the very fact that it is so public, anybody else, including the police, could actually instigate an investigation and could then proceed to make an arrest. So although very often if something is directed at an individual person, it's useful, particularly if there is a history. If there is a history of threats, then it would be useful to have a complainant. But technically, strictly speaking, because something is so public, there wouldn't necessarily have to be a complainant in the form of the victim directly. Like I say, there could be an interest group, or there could be the police themselves who could lay the charge. So
what would be the actual charge here? Because this is something that somebody may brag about it or make a threat, but you know, what would be the actual charge, for, especially where it comes to where there's a threat and nothing's actually happened yet?
Well, like I said, in terms of the criminal law, in terms of the common law, assault, the charge of assault includes a threat. So if somebody believes that they are being threatened, and believes that the threat may very well be carried out. And in this circumstance, given the context of sexual offences in this country, if someone were to threaten someone else online or their children online, there is a very real possibility that that threat may be carried out. An assault charge would be a competent charge to bring forward. And then, like I said, probably even more powerfully than an assault is the provision in the sexual offences legislation, which says that if a person inspires the belief in somebody else that they will be sexually assaulted, that is a criminal offence. And that's a very serious offence in terms of the criminal law and in terms of the sexual offences legislation. So that's very real. And the potential or the legislation that is coming into effect hopefully quite soon, it is also a criminal offence to post online and threaten people. So there are a number of options, and the sentences or the competent amount of years that someone could be sentenced to are serious. So there's no doubt that there is plenty of provision in the criminal law to pursue actions of this nature.
And do you know, Bronwyn, at this point, whether there are any plans to charge any of the people involved in this particular conversation, this thread where people did boast or make threats?
I actually don't know. I obviously haven't seen the docket, and I'm not aware of all the facts around the matter. But the media has certainly reported that the police have taken it seriously enough, and to my understanding, there has been a docket that's open and an investigation is ongoing. So I have no doubt that they are taking it seriously.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Bronwyn Pithi from the Women's Legal Centre, joining us from our Cape Town studio this morning.